Hello.
Hey, Pearl.
How are you?
Good.
I found out you're a Bitcoiner, huh?
Right? Yeah. Yep.
I I went to the Bitcoin conference last Thursday or sorry, not Thursday, last May, I think.
Okay.
And I've never met a more enthusiastic group of people.
Well, I think they're more enthusiastic now because it's 50,000 a coin, 57,000 a coin. I think probably last year it was down around 20 or something like that. Yeah.
They gave me $100 in Bitcoin
Okay.
and I lost the password. So
Oh my gosh. Well, Max Kaiser, I guess, in the very early days of Bitcoin, I think maybe around 2010 or 11, Max Kaiser gave Alex Jones 10,000 Bitcoins back then, and Alex Jones lost threw away the laptop, or and just totally forgot the keys, and what would 10,000 Bitcoins be worth today? So yeah, that actually happened quite a bit to the early Bitcoin holders.
well, yeah, maybe it'll be worth a lot someday. I was like, maybe Bitcoin isn't for me because I already lost the password.
Don't lose it. Buy some more. Yeah,
Okay, well, sorry, I had to say that because I just saw the
that's funny.
Bitcoin shirt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So tell me, what was your reaction when this video came out? Had you heard this, like, her side of the story before?
No, it's really kind of out of the blue. I just kind of wake up in the morning at 6 to start work, and I open my laptop, and I'm greeted with just this avalanche of, you're a deadbeat dad kind of comments in my social media, and I'm like, what the heck is this about? And after a few minutes of investigation, I find out my daughter, 24 years old, uh, she's put out a social media video kind of slamming me. Actually, her first video was sort of fine. I'd say about 95% of it, because it had a storyline. She's a Hollywood writer, assistant writer for NBC Peacock
Mm-hmm.
streaming, and she her opening was pretty good. It was like my dad left the family to pursue breakdancing, which actually isn't true. I picked up breakdancing by accident in
Mm-hmm.
2012 and did that for exercise. We got divorced from her mom in 2005, so there was like a 7-year gap there. But nevertheless, it was kind of a funny storyline. I had no problem with that. But then she implied that I wasn't paying medical bills and I was some kind of deadbeat dad. But in fact, I paid the mom and the family millions of dollars, $600,000 to a college fund. Basically, paid for pretty much everything. And I saw the kids all the time. Lived a mile and a half down the street, sidewalks all the way. They could walk or bike if they wanted. Then in 2011, we bought a house 8 minutes away. Still saw the kids all the time. Then the mother got remarried in 2012 and moved about an hour north to Wilmette, Illinois, kind of a North
Oh,
Shore
okay.
suburb. And so it was just totally out of the blue, because I had Christmas dinner with all the kids like just a few weeks before this came out. So it was all, and I text back and forth with Maddie. Now she is a wokester. We're definitely on different sides of the politics.
Mm-hmm.
Where is she here? Okay, so but we still have a great relationship, or at least I thought we did. So we're like texting all the time, literally all the
Yeah.
time, conversations. And she's telling me how her day is, and this is happening, and she's telling me about the merch she's selling on her site and all this stuff. So as far as I was concerned, the relationship was fine and really actually very good. So it was a shock, but she was doing it a little bit for clicks, I think, and maybe a little bit to kind of stick dad a little bit, maybe show she could go viral. And I wake up and her video has 7 million views, and so I talked to Maddie via text, not in person, but via text. I say, hey Maddie, this video, I actually like a lot of it, but there's some serious inaccuracies in here, so you need to take it down so that and just correct it and repost it. And you can make it funny without the implication that I'm some kind of deadbeat dad. And actually, she did not say that. But a lot of the comments said that, but she kind of implied it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, please take it down. And she said, well, I can't because it's gone viral. And she kind of has a side hustle on the whole social media thing. She makes a little bit of money, I think, from social media, 7 million views. She didn't want to take it down. So then I said, Maddie, okay, you won't take it down. How about I just do a response video? It'll be very, very mild, very sweet, just going to correct some of these inaccuracies that are frankly damaging to me, my business, my clients. I'm hearing about this literally from my clients, and everybody's seen her video. So I had to answer it. And so she declined to put up my response. And so I posted it on X, and it got 33 million views. And Elon weighed in. And then so she put up a much more negative second video, a follow-up video that was really, really full of a lot of inaccuracies that I didn't see them and so forth. Saw them all the time. Literally, I was just like every week. And it was just, so then I put up another video, which was still very mild, but it just in a more detailed way went through the facts and the details. And I showed home movies, when they were kids. And, we went to water parks and the beach, and we traveled across the country, went to Yellowstone Park, saw the buffalo, did all kinds of things. And this was just all the time. So it was just not true what she was saying at all. Now, I have no idea what's going on inside her head. Maybe in her mind, I don't have a good relationship with her, but in my mind, we had a great relationship for many years. And obviously divorce is very hard on kids. So, maybe there's 10% or 20% of her brain that was hostile to me. And maybe there might have been a political aspect. She did get very brainwashed, in my opinion, by her mom. They lived there, and we've been divorced 19 years. So there's a little bit of that. And I think there's a lot of brainwashing at the college level. She went to Northwestern, which is an elite college, costs about $65,000 a year to go there. And she was a theater major. And so that's a very kind of liberal milieu that she is in. Now she's in Hollywood, and she's kind of in that atmosphere. And she's trying to build this social media presence, and she has a lot of followers that are obviously on the left and kind of more the artsy crowd. And, so that's what happened.
Was that really frustrating to you? To
it's heartbreaking.
$5 million to have your daughter think that you were a deadbeat?
Yeah, it is very frustrating. And, my ex-wife will dispute the amount, whether it's 4 million or 5 million, but it's some millions. I didn't add it up. It's a lot of money, whether it's 4 million or 5 million, or it's a big amount. So they said, you lied, I didn't lie. It's some number. I haven't done the accounting, we've been been years and years and decades. So, but yeah, it's heartbreaking, and obviously I didn't show it in the video, but my wife, she says, I've never kind of seen you cry. Never once, not once about anything. And I didn't feel like I was crying, but I think she could see my tears welling up. And I'm not a crier. My dad I never saw him cry about anything. And I was kind of raised that way. But, I did feel great heartbreak over this because I really love Maddie. I love all my kids. And, I think there's a certain amount of brainwashing. All our memories are false. Everyone's memories. You've probably read studies about this, how, we kind of string together a narrative in our brains, and, maybe I remember things a little wrong. She remembers things a little wrong. And we kind of create these stories in our brain, and literally our memories are false. We kind of create a false narrative in a way, all of us. I mean, it's just because our brain can't hold that much data. We're just so. So I'm totally validating her perspective and how she felt and how she must have felt when, one day I'm living there and she's 5 years old, and then the next day I'm not living there. So obviously, she's going to be, affected by that.
No, I could hear that in your voice when you did the video. It's really common. I'm doing a documentary on divorce. I would guess out of every 5 men I interview, maybe 4 were alienated from their children. Some don't even know it till they're older. It's really common.
You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, because you just don't know what the mom is saying. Even I have personal friends that their parents were still married and they didn't figure it out. They were in the same house and that happened to them, where they thought their dad was gone because, he didn't want to be there and he was really working.
Right.
So I've seen it happen in the same house.
Well, and what's happened, I think, Pearl, you've touched on this in some of your podcasts and things, is what's interesting about my videos is the Black community actually resonated very strongly, with me. Liberal white women, not so much. They definitely kind of resonated more with Maddie. But the Black community really came in hard for me, and I think the reason for that is obviously that the Black community, they have more, family breakup and fatherless homes and things like that. And absolutely, that's true, and it's a big problem in the Black community. But the legal system is really, really tilted against the male. Now, somebody in my position, I can afford it. I can afford the alimony. I can afford child payments. But if you miss these child support payments, you miss alimony payments, you can end up in jail, and you will end up in jail. And for being in arrears, and then they're going to put you in a work release program, and you're going to have to hang drywall and so forth. And you're never going to get, a lot of these people are in this situation, and they're never going to get caught up on their payments. And meanwhile, they're ex-wife is dumping on them with their kids at the home, and the ex-wife is just dumping on the ex-dad as a deadbeat, and then the father loses all his self-esteem and self-worth, and he never really digs out, and he's he goes on drugs, or maybe he commits suicide, or alcohol, substance abuse, and so it's a real problem. So I do think that the legal system was tipped against the women back in the 50s. It was a stay-at-home mom, dad, and then the dad would leave and wouldn't give the mother any money, and so that's bad. And so it kind of snapped too far back against the male, and it's put particularly the working class males into really a bad situation, working class divorced males, and they don't realize how bad it's going to be, because a lot of people are getting divorced in their 40s or even 50s. Their kids are and for whatever reason, but they don't realize that they're in for a rough ride in a lot of ways, financially, and particularly the brainwashing by the mother of the kids, particularly the girls. I think, the girls are much more susceptible to it because they identify with the mom. Generally, the sons, the boys, are much less prone to drama, and they just kind of move forward, and they usually have a pretty good relationship with the dad. Not always. I'm speaking generally here.
Yeah.
But I think that's
I agree with
pattern.
You. That's what I've seen too.
Yeah.
Where the women, it affects a little bit more.
Definitely. Yep.
I'm curious, 5 million in a divorce, roughly. Maybe it's 4 or 3.
Yeah, maybe
we're not gonna we're not gonna argue over
it's a lot.
Yeah, that's even even I saw the one video where she was saying that like you lied about her job or something, but it didn't seem it seemed like a small detail that was wrong. It didn't really seem that relevant.
Yeah, it's not a lie. Here's what I do, and it's interesting because I kind of look at the chat and her comments back and things like that. And so she says I exaggerated her as being a Hollywood screenwriter. Now a lot of parents kind of exaggerate. Really, what she is an assistant writer.
I said he's proud of you.
she's an assistant writer. She's in a writer's room working on a show for NBC Peacock streaming. And the fact that I know so much about her daily life tells you that I'm actually involved in it and know quite a bit about it, and we talk about it all the time. So she's actually an assistant writer working in a writer's group on a show for NBC Peacock streaming. And she's very proud of that. The fact that she got that job, those are very competitive kind of jobs to get, very difficult to get. So now I've sort of shortened it to she's a Hollywood screenwriter,
Yeah. And, I know. I did. So I didn't
maybe
think
she's embarrassed at work about that because she could be getting blowback at work, So yeah.
Well, I didn't think it was a fair criticism because I'm just like, he's proud of you.
Oh yeah, I hype my kids' achievements all the time. Like for example, when she went viral a little while ago, you probably saw it, where she's talking about her date with a kind of a bro man, a real man's man type boyfriend.
Oh and she said she really liked it. Girl. I didn't realize that was the same girl.
So she went viral with that. And it was all through conservative media. And they were playing it, they played on Fox News, Gutfeld, Jesse Waters and stuff. And all the conservatives liked it because she discovered, hey, I really like this this man's man, this date that I just had. Forget these liberal snowflakes, even though she herself is very much a liberal. But, the conservatives loved it. And so I was obviously kind of like bragging about this. Hey, that's my daughter. That's pretty cool. And so she was saying I was taking credit for it. This is what she's been saying after these videos. He's taking credit, trying to hype himself up. I don't need to. Before this blew up, I had like 2,000 X followers. I hardly had any social media presence. I'm in the advertising business. That's what I do. So no, I'm not trying to hype up my social media presence.
Well,
but she was kind of accusing me that
you had 5 million to spend in a divorce. I'm sure you're quite accomplished on your own.
I mean, social media is not really what I wanted to do, but I had to answer this stuff, and what's kind of interesting, Pearl, is okay. So I get greeted with this video. It's got 7 million views by her. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I've got this social media following that's hardly any. I'll be lucky to if I put up a video, it might get 200 views. But I thought it was important to put it up after she declined to put it up on her feed, and after she declined to take it down. I thought I have to put it up so I at least set the record straight. So when my clients, ask me about it, I can at least point them there to this link. Check this out. Here are the facts. Blah blah blah. Man, I didn't know it was going to get 33 million views, and that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say I'm glad it went viral, but I think the story's important because it's really common. And the reason it went so viral is because it resonates with so many men.
Right. It hit a chord with I think divorced dads, because they they identified with it, particularly in the Black community or, the
Mm-hmm.
working class community. Absolutely. So
I'm curious, 5 million in a divorce, how many days did you get a month?
just one day, just one.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
but here I'll
Yeah.
amend that. That
Okay.
was like in the legal agreement, and there was a period when my ex-wife, she did file a motion to prevent visitation, and we had to
Mm-hmm.
go through a lot of legal proceedings, and she, anyway, I'm not going to go into all the nastiness. I mean, if
Yeah.
she starts bringing up stuff, I can bring up stuff, right? So, but she filed this, so I had to overcome that, and so I got one day, but once things kind of calmed down from the divorce, she kind of let me see them whenever I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
So I would call up Pete, my son, or the girls, go out to dinner. Hey, want to go to dinner? So it didn't have to be on a particular day. I mean, it's just down the street.
Yeah.
We had them at Thanksgiving over at the house. So it was just, so there wasn't really any restrictions, because people have phones. You just say, hey, I'm going to dinner, text message, and they say yes or no. Generally, the girls, I will say this, the boys, my son, we were much closer in terms of going out all the time to movies and things like that. The girls, by the time they get to middle school, they're kind of like just wanting to do their own thing with their friends, and so I don't enforce the visitation. It's, yeah, hey, we're going to dinner. Hey, we're going to breakfast. We're going to lunch. Whatever. We're going to You want to come? Nah, I'm going to go hang out with my friends. So that is true. So in that sense, Maddie is saying, well, I didn't see my dad that much. I didn't have that much of a relationship with him. Yeah, but that's the girls just naturally want to hang out with their friends. I don't want to say you have to be here at a certain
Yeah.
time. I mean, you have to have breakfast. You have to have
You
dinner.
hit like
No.
12, your parents are lame.
Yeah, they're lame. They thought
Yeah.
we were lame. I mean, they're embarrassed, but to be seen with their parents.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just how. That's not Maddie. That's just like every middle school, high school girl is like that. Not everyone, but
Well, my point
most of them.
my point actually wasn't about how often you saw them, because I've just seen this story so many times. I have no doubt you were an involved dad. It was more that you spent $5 million and were only legally entitled to a day a month.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I have to look at that. I think it was one day. I think it was Saturday. I think that was the legal. But in practice, I could see them whenever I
Yeah.
wanted. I mean, it was not. Nothing was really strictly adhered to. The only thing that really strictly adhered to was the money part. But everything else was pretty much. So I would say that after the sort of dust settled on the divorce, she did not restrict me in terms of
Mhm.
seeing the kids. Yeah, I would say that. But I didn't force anything onto them. And maybe I just think it would have been backfired. I think it would have backfired to try to force them to be places. Just
Mhm.
I think it's just better to say, be patient and say you're there, and here we are. Oh, she did say one thing too in her follow-up video. She said, well, he was never there. He actually lived in Florida. That's not really true either. We did buy a house in Florida. We kept our house in Illinois, and we'd stay in Florida generally in the winter. And we go back and forth all the time. Generally, stay in Chicago area during when the spring, fall, spring, summer, fall, that kind of thing. When the weather is good. So, and of course, they're always welcome to come to Florida. They're always welcome to come over to the house. We have pools in both places. So, but once the kids get to be kind of older, we just
Mhm.
bought the vacation house, or kind of a vacation house in Florida, and we did actually make it our residence because there's no income tax in Florida. So, uh,
Yeah,
but the kids are grown up by then. Two are in college, two are in high school. They're on their own. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah, I'm from the same area. That's really common because the winters are
Uh,
so bad. I'm from like
yeah, the winters are
Algonquin
the
area,
winters are
if you know where that's
brutal.
at.
Yeah, it's funny because like in 2015, we're in Florida, kind of just vacationing during the bad weather, and we came across this foreclosure and just got a really good deal on it. Said, how can this be this cheap? And we bought it and we liked it. So, but by that time, two of the kids are in college and two are in high school, and we're going back and forth. I mean, it's like a taxi cab, almost going back and forth between Fort Lauderdale and Chicago. You just jump on Spirit Airlines, $90. You're in
Yeah.
O'Hare in a few hours, and then
Have you spoken to their mother about their perspective or her perspective?
Well, her mother, I thought actually I was getting along okay with with their mom, even last year. So I go to pick up the kids for Thanksgiving or something, and this is like last year, and I guess one of them was late, maybe Tori or somebody was late, so I just go. So she just invites me in the house, and we have a glass of wine. Now she's remarried to a great guy, very successful. He's head of a cancer center, I think, founder and runs a cancer center affiliated with Northwestern University. Yeah, so very successful and very good guy, and she lives in a $2 million house in well met. So she's doing fine. So I thought we were getting along fine, but I think something's happened to really make her hostile toward me. Now she's super hostile now because of my videos that went up against, not against Maddie, but my
Yeah.
fact check type videos that went up. And so she's super angry about that. She's even tried to she's even calling my clients and, trying
Oh,
to,
she's tried calling your
saying,
clients?
yeah, she's calling my clients and she's saying, you got to talk to Ben and you got to get us both on. So she's literally like trying to torpedo my
Wow.
business now. So it seems like it. Seems like
How
it.
are you in
So
such good spirits? Like you have a very positive.
mm,
I would just be wrecked if I was in your shoes.
well, I'll tell the. I have a very kind of upbeat attitude generally. I'm
Hmm.
sort of a stoic existentialist. In other words, I think every day that I have here on this planet is basically a gift from God. It's just like an incredible gift. So why waste it with a lot of anger and stuff? Why do that?
Yeah.
Just be happy with every day that arrives. Every day that's above ground is a good day as far as I'm concerned. And besides that, here in America, we just have so many blessings, and the idea that we're really complaining about anything is just kind of preposterous to me. So
Hmm.
everybody has challenges, everybody has bumps in the road, obstacles they have to overcome. You know, people have PTSD. I actually have two kids. I mean 6 kids because
Wow, you have
Wanda.
6 kids.
So
Wow.
Wanda has 2 kids and from a previous marriage, and one of them served one tour in Iraq, 2 tours in Afghanistan. And he unfortunately has PTSD, so he has far greater problems than my kids do. And I hear about his stories in Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff, and it's just amazing. I mean, it's just like it's crazy. So I think every day that we have in this country is just an awesome day.
Hmm. So if you have you spoken to her since everything went viral? I know she's trying to reach out to your
Text
clients.
message. The idea that we have a bad message too is just insane because Maddie and I are just talking via text mostly,
Hmm.
but you know, I just sent her a text this like cute little viral video that
Yeah.
about our thing that was very neutral, kind of more tipped in her direction than my direction. I said I thought this was funny, but she didn't answer. And I said, look, I would like to come out to LA and we just hang out. We just hang out for a few days, couple days, go on a boat ride, do whatever, hang out in the park, go to whatever, do whatever you want to do, just hang out. So she hasn't. She's so far not accepted that invitation. I hope she does at some point. I hope she does sooner
Hmm.
rather than later. I think it would be fun to, post some pictures or video or whatever of us is getting along and reconciling because there's really no reason not to be getting along. I mean, here are the texts. These are the
Yeah.
types of conversations we have all the time.
Yeah.
She's telling me about her day. It's just and it's so unnecessary. And I think she initially did it for views because she had this funny story idea that I got left by my dad.
Hmm.
He did that. He went to become a breakdancer,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It's a
there's a bit
funny
of I'm told,
story.
and I just found this out that people are saying that there's this trend on TikTok among wealthy kind of, or not wealthy, but kind of white women, white liberal women or girls to talk about their trauma, their family trauma, and apparently this is a trend on TikTok, and so she came up with this kind of funny idea for a trauma, and I think it is funny. But then she kind of went a little bit into this dark area.
Yeah. Well, I hope she figures it out. It's
Yeah.
not like I mean, you don't even seem angry at her.
No, I'm not angry at her at all. I think she a little bit of a victim of the brainwashing by the mom, by the schools, and I'm hoping that in a few years, I think as people grow older, they become more commonsensical, even if they might not become a Republican,
Hmm.
Trump supporter or anything like that. But they sort of like, especially if you get married and have kids.
MAGA,
I mean,
MAGA.
especially if you get married and have kids, married women tend to be conservative, tend to
Yeah.
be right leaning more. And so I think there's that. And I do actually think that the whole war on the family and marriage and so forth is a little bit, there's a political agenda behind that because they know if you're a single woman, you're more likely to be on the left side. So I think there is some of that working also. But yeah, it's a tough situation, believe me.
Yeah.
These dads, other dads, thank God that I have the financial resources to be able to withstand kind of the assault that I was under from the legal process when we got divorced. But most guys don't have that, aren't able to do that, and they get buried. They get very depressed. They fall into alcoholism, depression, substance abuse, and they're alienated from their kids and so forth. So, I think the kids, I think the kids as they get older will realize that nobody's perfect. I'm far from perfect. Nobody is, no parent is. I mean, my dad was far from perfect. My parents got divorced. He had an alcohol problem. He was one of the smartest people I ever met. He was an English professor at Dartmouth, but he was a tough person to get along with sometimes. He kind of had a Jekyll and Hyde personality, but in fact, we had years when we didn't talk. There was a period when I did not talk to him for 3 years because of something he did to me. It's a financial kind of thing where basically, without getting into the details, but I didn't talk to him for 3 years. And he was the type of person that he would never call. So he would never call a kid if he would never initiate contact. But if you call him, he'd say, "Hey, how you doing? Want to have dinner? Want to have lunch?" But not once would he ever initiate contact. So 3 years passes, and we haven't talked. And finally, I said, "Okay, I'm going to get in touch with Dad." So I call him. I was in Washington D.C. at that point, and he was up in New Hampshire because he had been a professor at Dartmouth. And I said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to be in town. I'm going to be in town on Tuesday. I hadn't made the arrangements yet, but hey, you want to have dinner?" He said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." And it was like nothing had happened, and the conversation was exactly where it was when we had, left it, years ago. So it was just like nothing had skipped a beat. So it was very just interesting. So what I'm hoping is that that Maddie will just take me up on my offer to go out to LA and hang out.
Well, I think too, we don't always realize that men show their love in a completely different way than women do.
Yeah.
And so, like, my dad, he worked a lot when I was younger. And then when I was 18, I found out his life's goal was to make sure none of his kids had to pay for college like he did.
Yeah.
And so it's like men show their love, I mean, and a lot of times conservatives make it sound like something it's not, but in a way men do show their love by paying for things and like money.
Right.
It's not just that, obviously, but
no, it should be just that. And of course, if you listen to the liberal women, in the comments, they'll say, "Well, it's not just about money; it's about the emotional bond and so forth." And it is not. They're right about that.
But money is your time,
I mean, money is your time. Yeah, it's not just money. It's like you're literally, they call it making a living for a reason, because if you can't make money, you're literally going to die. You're literally going to starve. You're going to be on the street. So there's a reason they call it making a living, and money is kind of a wealth storage system that you can, and that we can get into Bitcoin if you want to.
I was going to give you, at the end of this, I was actually going to give you the floor to talk about anything Bitcoin.
Oh, okay.
If you wanted, I just saw
sure.
I saw the enthusiasm for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think the Bitcoin okay, go ahead.
Well, is there anything else you want to say on the situation?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, unless you have questions, I'm trying to keep it. I want it to be positive and upbeat. I don't want to trash her mom too much. I mean, obviously, I think that there was a brainwashing aspect there. She's calling my clients now, which is not cool. But of course, that's not having any impact on my business because they know who I am, and I do good work for them. And so it's like, well, why don't you talk to him? It's like.
Men are a bit more logical. They're not gonna stop working with someone because of family drama,
No. So that's kind of that, But yeah, I feel any questions?
Well,
maybe from your
when did
audience,
you? Yeah, if anyone has any questions in the chat, but I'm curious. So, were any of your other kids did any of your other kids feel the same way?
Well, the girls have they've kind of rallied a little bit around Maddie and Mom, and that's sort of it doesn't disappoint me that they rally around Maddie at all, because she's kind of getting torched in social media because I put up these videos that kind of fact checked her videos, so she's kind of getting torched, and so they see her as a victim, and I'm sure they also feel like I abandoned the family the way she does, because that's kind of what they've been taught, frankly, by their mom, and it might have looked that way to them because one day I'm living at the house and the next day I'm not. So there is that. So the girls are kind of rallying. I talked to my son, and he's like, "Hey," he says, I say, "Hey, Peter, did you hear anything about the social media dust up with Maddie?" He's like, "Yeah, I think I heard something about it. What's that about?" he definitely didn't want to really get into it, and I don't know how much he knew, but it was like, I mean, as far as he's concerned, it's like, okay, some kind of drama going on. It's not like something he needs to be worried about. It's like, hey, when are you going to be? We're in Florida now. Hey, when are you going to be in town? When are you going to be? He's 29 now, so, and so Yeah, so he's getting his master's in psychology. He wants to be a yeah, he actually is bipolar 1, so he has some mental health issues. So he wants to help people who have his issues, because he's a very smart, intelligent guy, and a lot of people don't have his resources, level of intelligence, and so forth. He wants to help people who have his mental health issues.
Well, and
So,
I can hear in your voice how proud you are of your kids. I could hear
oh
it through the
yeah,
video, you know.
oh yeah, I'm totally proud of them, even if they never talk to me. But and I hope that doesn't happen. But they're gonna. I think they'll come around. I think they all will, and you know, I'm pretty confident of that.
Yeah,
This has
I
happened
think
before. This has happened before. So Victoria, the oldest daughter, she once decided not to talk to me for a year, and then I'm picking up, I don't know, Peter for dinner or something,
mhm.
and Tori comes out of the house, and this is, I think she was like a senior or maybe junior in high school, and I say, "Hey, Tori, great, you could be here." I like to say, "So, what changed your mind about coming? We haven't like talked in a year," and she says, "I just think you've had a year of silence, and that's enough." And then it was just, you know. So that's kind of like, yeah. So that I hope something like that happens, or hopefully sooner than that.
Yeah. Have you had a lot of men reach out to you with their stories?
I see it a lot in the comments,
Mhm.
and because my videos went viral, the comments are just this avalanche of thousands of comments, but people are putting, paragraphs in the comments about their situation. And
Mhm.
maybe I'll do a video on that sometime, just going through these comments and telling the story, really unrelated to my situation. Just it's a real problem. I mean, there's a mental health crisis out there because of the way the divorce laws are set up and how the legal system is completely tipped against me. And this is kind of funny. This is going to really get me in trouble. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm trouble, so
Okay. I'm trying. So when I go into court against my ex-wife, I could see that this judge was probably a lesbian. I don't know for sure, but
Okay.
I knew that I was dead. But I said it, I said it in an email to Betsy. I guess you win the lottery here. You got the lesbian judge, so like I'm going to be toast here. So naturally, that got read in court. You know,
Oh no.
so that was bad. So,
Well,
yeah.
that's the thing. I think a lot of the conservatives are a bit naive to how bad family court can be for men,
Hmm.
especially average men in this country. Like you were saying
Yeah.
earlier.
Yep.
Like, and I would say,
Typical men, like the 90% of them, like
yeah,
like they're screwed. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I had no idea until I started researching it, and then I started asking. It's crazy the amount of Uber drivers I've had that are
Hmm.
Ubering because they got wrecked in family court.
Yep.
It's
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's really common.
Right. And you even see, like, I was in an Uber a few weeks ago, and it was a college professor literally doing Ubering to get extra money, and from this situation, from this he wasn't making enough as a professor,
Mhm.
maybe a junior professor or something like that, couldn't make the payment, so he has to, Uber drive. So, it's really pretty tough.
Mhm.
They say, hey, it's only money, it's just money. It's you need to have feelings. It's also emotional connection. Well, a guy is working all day on a construction site. It's kind of hard to have emotional connection when you're, coming home, just dead tired, and you crack open a beer. I mean, that is kind of the life situation for most people out there. And you're pretty dead tired from work, and maybe you aren't as emotionally engaged as would be optimal.
Yeah, well, and how do you compete with the mom who has all day to tell them their side of the story? No,
You're
like
right.
they have all
All day.
day. Like they could be in their ear all day. The
Oh yeah,
dad
and
gets home, he has no idea what happened all day. Like just like
uh,
your story is so common. It is so common.
Oh, well, also, my ex-wife, she did not work when I was, because she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's part of the reason for the whole money. Well, I don't want the kids to be, latchkey kids. I don't want them to
Hmm.
come home and have no mom there. So, I need to be a single mom. I need to be a fully engaged mom. So now she was doing some projects. She had a column with Scripps Howard News Service, and she was doing a little
Yeah.
gigs here and there, but it's maybe bringing in 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month, not much. And so, but she wanted
Wow.
to be a stay-at-home mom, and I basically agreed to that. I agreed, yeah, okay, I think that would be optimal. So, yeah, she really did have all day.
Wow. So you
Yeah.
actually paid for her to stay home with the kids throughout their entire life.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and she started getting work when the kids got older, like maybe, when they were late in high school. She started getting, more, but still stay at home type work. It's more like freelance type work, not really not leaving the house for the full-time job at all. So, I have no idea how much. And plus she's married to 2012, she married a pretty rich guy, this guy who's head of a cancer center founder and head of a cancer center. I think he's founder. Uh, at Northwestern University. So, she's living in a $2.4 million home, I think, in Wilmette.
He better
Yeah.
be careful. 5 million. Sorry, that's my first thought. That's my first thought. Be careful.
So she's doing fine. But so, but the point is everybody has their own narrative and their own perspective, right? So, and everybody kind of stitches to no one wants to think of themselves as a liar, right? So nobody's really lying. They are kind of stitching together this narrative and cherry picking things, over a long period of time, over many decades, and that becomes your memory. So like my dad and I used to play tennis all the time, pretty much every day, but I can only really remember maybe a few times, even though I know he was a tremendous tennis player, a collegiate tennis player, played number one, was a top 10 junior tennis player, this and that. So we played tennis all the time, and but I can't actually remember each time we played tennis. I remember like a few key events, and that's how the human mind works. And so that's how their mind works. So I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm saying that they've stitched together this narrative in their brain. I've done the same in my brain. And so we literally have different memories and different recollections.
Well, I hope she figures it out. I think she will eventually. You seem like you seem like a pretty involved dad. So
I do too. I think so.
So tell me about Bitcoin.
Well, Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin. I was just on Dinesh D'Souza's podcast talking about Bitcoin because I have a book out. I have a book.
Yeah, go ahead.
Look, I'm gonna plug my book here.
Bitcoin. Okay.
Which is Bitcoin: A Beginner's Guide. It actually came out in 2022, and the subtitle is "Your Off-Ramp from the Corrupt Political System and Protection from Economic Collapse." And the thing about I say Bitcoin is really the only hope for freedom's survival. And when you take a look at what's happening now, you have this big tech totalitarianism, right? The only outpost really is thank God Elon bought X, because otherwise there would be no way, there'd be no free speech for the right of center side, for the pro-freedom side. All information would be controlled by Google and big tech, Microsoft. Microsoft's now threatening to basically disable all your applications if they don't like something that you might be typing privately on your computer.
No way.
So they're actually doing that. Yeah. And so you got this big tech totalitarian prison being set up, digital prison, and they're in partnership with government, right? So CIA was Google's biggest client. They basically provided the startup capital for Google, and so they are literally Google and Amazon and Microsoft. They are literally arms of the government, and they're biggest customers of the government, and so that's a digital prison that's being set up. And the big problem that Bitcoin solves is it solves the problem of dishonest money. So what happened was the United States went off the gold standard in 1971 when Nixon was president, and at that point, 1 ounce of gold, and we'd been on the gold standard more or less through our history. 1 ounce of gold cost $35 an ounce then. But Nixon and Congress, they wanted to keep funding the Great Society welfare programs and the Vietnam War, and it's pretty hard to do that, both of those things, if you're on the gold standard. So they took us off the gold standard and just went to a pure government fiat money printing system. And so they just printed up a lot of money, and Nixon won 49 states because the economy's booming. It's kind of like a sugar high for the economy, right? So then flash forward to meanwhile, these brilliant software engineers were trying to figure out had they been for many years. And actually, Bitcoin is not just thought up by somebody one day. This is a project that had been going for decades, and it was going for decades since really the 1980s, I would say. And there were many attempts to create a digital currency, and it had to be decentralized. And the reason it had to be decentralized is because you can't have a way for government to be able to get it, attack it. So what Bitcoin is it's honest money. There'll never be more than 21 million Bitcoins. And it's the money is in the form of a ledger that is updated every 10 minutes, and it's distributed to miners and nodes, computers across the world, to more than 1 million miners and nodes across the world. And so there's no way government can attack it, can get it, because it's just on somebody's computer out there. Somebody, even if they wiped out every computer in America, well, Bitcoin ledger is still being updated every 10 minutes, in Kazakhstan and Afghanistan and Iran and Africa and everywhere else. And China did try to attack Bitcoin in 2021. They outlawed Bitcoin mining and they outlawed Bitcoin transactions. And so what happened, and at that point, 60% of the mining, Bitcoin mining, and I'll explain what that is in a minute if you're interested, was being done in China. And so they outlawed mining. China did. The China regime did. And so all the miners left China, went to Kazakhstan and other places. And so there was no Bitcoin mining done in China. And the Bitcoin mining hash rate did drop, but then quickly came back up. And so China gave up trying to attack Bitcoin, and the mining has now come back in China. So now like 20% of the Bitcoin mining is now being done in China. And I think the Chinese government is actually trying to sort of co-opt it, maybe buy some themselves. So basically, Bitcoin is unconfiscatable money. There'll never be more than 20 million. It's meant to fix the money printing press that started in 1971. Actually started before that, but we'll just say for simplicity, 1971. So 1 ounce of gold in 1971 was $35 an ounce. Today it's $2,047, I think today. I think I checked the price. And so basically the dollar has lost 98.5% of its value since 1971.
98.5?
98.5% of its value. So in other words, instead of paying $45,000 for a pretty good car, which is the average car price now, you should be paying $800 for the same car.
No way.
Right? That gives you, let that sink in for a minute. Or my dad bought our childhood home for $20,000. That same house is worth more than $1 million today. So that's not because the value of the house went up. It's because the value of the dollar is just, and what that is a hidden tax. And what fiat money printing is, it's 100% taxation over time. It's infinite taxation. So the government doesn't ever have to pass another tax increase. It could just print more money. And that's what's happening. So we now have a $35 trillion national debt, or 34 trillion, soon to be 100 trillion. And the government's not worried about that because they can just pay more. They can just print up more money to pay for that, to cover the interest, and just let the debt go to infinity. And then but eventually the piper does have to be paid. Eventually you become the Weimar Republic. You become, just 10,000% interest rates. But what's going to happen is the national debt just accelerates. It just keeps accelerating. Before the pandemic, like say in 2019, the national debt was maybe 18 trillion, and now it's 35, 34 trillion. So it's like literally doubled. So pretty soon it's going to be 100 trillion and 2 trillion, 200 trillion, and so on. And so what's going to happen is the money printing, just to keep up with the interest payments, are just going to have to accelerate, go faster, print more and more and more money. Otherwise, the whole Ponzi scheme collapses. So that's the problem that Bitcoin solves.
When do you foresee it becoming standardized in like our lifetime?
There's a big debate. There are factions. Interesting within the Bitcoin community. There are factions like this.
I couldn't believe that. Like they'll be like, "You're not a real Bitcoiner." I'm like, "What's a real Bitcoin?" Like not me, but they'll call each other, and I'm like, because my cousin, his name's Jonathan. He's a tall guy. You might know him if you're really in the Bitcoin stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, he'll talk like you guys have like communities of the real Bitcoiners and the non-real.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah,
because there's other coins. I guess I don't.
Here's how I would. Okay, here. I'm just going to generalize here on the factions. Okay, there's the really hardcore libertarians, and they believe that Bitcoin. There's going to be a phase called hyper. Because people want the hardest money, the best money. And what's great about Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is sometimes called digital gold because gold. That's where you store your value, but it's not really good for buying a cup of coffee or, bag of groceries. It's not practical to use gold for sort of daily transactions. So then, we developed in the United States gold certificates. So you could literally take your paper currency, literally gold certificates, and walk to any bank and get gold coins, and they'd be real gold coins. And then what happens is they dilute the gold, and they try to counterfeit. They try to do counterfeiting that way. The government does, and then eventually they just gave up on all this counterfeiting and putting less silver in the dimes and putting less silver and put less copper in the pennies, and pretty soon it's just junk. And then they just go to a pure paper money printing system that's not tied by anything except the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, right? So, the danger for the United States is that let me go into these factions. So there's the really hardcore Bitcoiners like Max Kaiser. He's one of the original Bitcoiners, and he thinks that Bitcoin is going to hyper-Bitcoinization, that there's going to come a point where there's going to be a kind of a point of no return where just basically all fiat currency is going to be sucked into Bitcoin, and everybody's going to be using Bitcoin, and it's going to be $1 trillion a coin and that kind of thing. So that's one school. I actually don't want that to happen because I think we do need things like a military. We just don't want to have like people just, so we do need that. And so what I think, my view is that Bitcoin has the potential to keep the dollar honest, because what will happen is the free market will kick in. If people think that the paper money is not good, they're just going to buy more Bitcoin, and there's going to be a free market working. And people will probably still use fiat currency. You can use Bitcoin to buy your bag of groceries, your cup of coffee. Some places take Bitcoin. And El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender. So if you go to El Salvador, you can buy your cup of coffee with Bitcoin. You can carry it around on your phone and do it. And in Africa, Bitcoin is like most people use it, I think.
Oh, really?
And so I think what's going to happen though is we want the United States to still exist. We don't want it to just be sucked into this Bitcoin, black kind of vortex. But I think Bitcoin will be a great stabilizer to the dollar. But in the event of, if they really get corrupt, and also I talk about the digital prison, the big tech thing, Bitcoin is kind of I call it the Second Amendment for money. It separates money from state. It's unconfiscatable. You can be your own bank, or you can just buy an ETF. So if you buy the ETF, which just got approved, like 11 of them just got approved a few weeks ago, I think on January 10th. Some people just say, okay, I'm not going to try to worry about self-custody and how do I set up a wallet and how do I get my address. They're just going to buy the ETF and at least protect themselves from the fiat money government printing. Maybe I don't have to carry my wealth with me to El Salvador or someplace in the event of a total social political system collapse. So maybe I don't have to do that. So you can still buy it through an ETF, like BlackRock has one called I think it's called IBIT. And they just and Fidelity has one. So a lot of people, I think most people maybe will just do that, and at least they store their wealth that way. And it's easy to do. You just go on E-Trade and you can just buy an ETF. But that would not be true Bitcoin, right? You're just owning the ETF. So the true Bitcoiners, they want to own their own Bitcoin. They want to have self-custody of their Bitcoin. They want to have their own keys, store where nobody can get it. So, so there's the really hardcore ones. A lot of them think I'm kind of like phony because I think the ETFs are good. It makes it easy for people to buy Bitcoin. I think that's good.
I know. That's why I said, I was like, I have never met a more enthusiastic group of people than Bitcoin.
It's hardcore libertarians.
Well, and a ton of them have watched my stuff because I've never been recognized more in my life than when I was at the Bitcoin conference.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't know I had such a fan base in Bitcoin. Like, it's just, I didn't know anything about it.
Because, you are kind of, you say things that, get you in trouble and stuff. Absolutely. Well, what's kind of interesting, Pearl, though, is I also try to not politicize Bitcoin because, it's more libertarian. It's not Republican or party. I mean, most of them hate Republicans and Democrats. They just hate the two parties equally. So they're very libertarian minded. And so you do have the left leaning libertarians like a Jack Dorsey. He says he's dedicating his entire life to just making Bitcoin, available to the world easily. And so there's a lot of lefty libertarians in Bitcoin and right-leaning libertarians in Bitcoin. So I don't want to say like it's a Republican thing or try to make it partisan, because what's kind of interesting too is I think it was more of a liberals were more attracted to Bitcoin at first because liberalism used to be for freedom, used to be for things like free speech and civil liberties, and but they're not really for that anymore. They're for this state control totalitarianism, big tech. You can't say what you think. You can't.
And that's okay. YouTube, give us our monetization back, please.
Yeah, I know you. I guess you lost your monetization.
Please, YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so insane. I mean, but hopefully you can also build a community on X, and you can monetize that way. Monetize through. Well. But Bitcoin, I think it is. I think it's a great check on government, the corruption of the money. I say there's there's two hopes for freedom survival. One is Bitcoin because it fixes the money. Whoever controls your money controls you, right?
Right.
So if the government is in control of your money, and now they're going to come out with programmable money that's being rolled out in China, where people the money can be programmed so you can only buy certain things, certain approved things, or if you say something wrong, the government can turn off your money. So that's being
Oh,
rolled out in
wow.
China, and the World Economic Forum is just dying to have programmable money so they can literally turn off your money. And they say that's not going to happen in the United States, but guess what? It will. Bitcoin protects us from that because Bitcoin is not programmable money. It's dumb money. It's just like gold, except it's on the internet. You can do whatever you want with it. No one can confiscate it. No one can tell you what you can buy. So Bitcoin it fixes the money. Money defined as store of wealth, not currency. There's a difference. You get into like what is money, but currency could be a fiat money. It's the dollar. It could be the peso or whatever, and that's what you can
I'm
buy
trying
your
to keep up with you, but
whatever.
gosh, you're going so over my
But
head.
so Bitcoin is more like gold. It's like a
Like
wealth
gold, okay.
storage system.
Yeah.
But the other pillar of freedom survival is I think Elon Musk because he's fixing free speech with Twitter,
Yes.
with X, and he really sees the issue there. And he actually bought Bitcoin. Tesla bought Bitcoin. I was disappointed that they sold like 2/3 of it, and like he got kind of infatuated with Dogecoin, which was like literally a joke meme coin. But he was surprised to learn, like a few weeks back, Kathy Wood noted that more compute power is being used on the Bitcoin network than the combined compute power of Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple. And that compute power is used to secure the network. That's a big part of the security. And Elon was surprised by that. He did not know that. So he didn't really, even though he liked the idea of Bitcoin, he hadn't really studied it as much as I thought. But I do think that Elon is really like Hank Reardon of Atlas Shrugged. Here he is. He's building an alternative internet with Starlink. And when I saw his rockets dock with the space station with astronauts, and he's a private individual doing this, I'm thinking like, how do I invest in Elon? How do I invest in Elon? So I became a Tesla investor because there was nothing else that I could invest in. Yeah, so that's why I'm a Tesla. And conservatives don't like electric vehicles. They're biased against electric vehicles because the government's trying to force feed it, and it's all this climate crisis stuff, which is totally a hoax. And but the EVs I think are good. I don't think they're good for long trips, not great for long trips, but it's great they actually are a much better car, much more fun car to drive. They're faster. Everything is better. But in the battery issue and the range issue, and will be fixed over time. But I really love Elon because he was a Democrat. He said he voted Democrat all his life, and then he realized that they're really anti-freedom. And Elon had a great phrase, and I hadn't really thought of this before. He says, the government is a corporation. It's no different from any other corporation, except the government has a monopoly of force, a monopoly of violence against you. Corporations don't. Other corporations don't.
Did you say that Elon saw your tweet?
Yeah, he responded to both my videos.
Wow, what did he say? Did he message you?
He didn't message me. He just posted a comment. The first one is awesome. He said, "You're awesome," and then the other one was a longer, like maybe a paragraph almost, or a few sentences. And he said, "Yeah, you're absolutely right about the woke education. This is like a total mind virus. This is like ruining kids' lives."
Yeah.
He went on, and now I cannot believe. I'm sure that Elon has a whole like team that is watching I can't believe he's sitting there watching his social media feed, but I think he did look. Somebody must have gone all the way to the end of my video, because that's where I talk about the woke education, the woke mind virus, and so forth, and how it's poisoning the kids. And,
I think that Elon has had issues even as a billionaire.
Yeah,
because he has so many different like mothers. Like, doesn't he have like kids with 4 or 5 different women? I'm not even saying that to dog on him. I'm just thinking, even a billionaire, I think, I am sure he has had a feminist judge with one of the kids.
Oh yeah. Well, remember, one of his kids went transsexual. Yeah. So that really, and he said that happened because of the schools. Now, and he also says, which is interesting. I think he's pro-life because he says that, we have this big birth dearth, that civilization is literally collapsing because people aren't having babies. And that, we're like not at the replacement level. Without immigration, we would be literally shrinking in population. And because of China's population control policies, They're scheduled basically to go from 1.2 billion down to 600 million people, like in the next 30 years or so. If that, but now they are allowing more babies over in China now, but yeah, there's a huge. I mean, when you think about the social security system, that's a big Ponzi scheme, and if you don't have more people paying into it, right, it's gonna collapse. And of course they, so, and there's going to be just a general economic collapse, because if you don't have people who are working these jobs, the corporations can't do business, and that's why they like immigration. That's why they like illegal immigration. I'm all for immigration. I just want to be legal. I want the border to be secure. You're not a country without a secure border. But I'm all for lots of legal immigration, and we want to make sure we screen out the criminals and the drug cartels and so on. But yeah, so Elon is totally red pilled. I don't know.
I think what happened with was it a daughter or a son?
I think it was a son.
That became.
Yeah, I think it was a son. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I think that red pilled him a bit. I think that made him buy Twitter, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the way he's been attacked since buying Twitter, because the Biden administration literally has filed like 8 different investigations, some of them criminal, against him since the Twitter thing. They don't want free speech. They're trying to crush free speech, and they're going after Tesla. They're going after SpaceX. They literally filed a complaint against him because he wasn't hiring immigrants, illegal immigrants, and asylum seekers, when SpaceX literally is barred by law from hiring anybody who isn't a U.S. citizen because of the military implications of SpaceX. You don't want to have, people from China coming in and applying and getting a job and so forth. So he literally is barred by law. But the Justice Department is suing him. The Civil Rights Division is suing him for discriminating against asylum seekers and illegal immigrants, literally. So, and that's just one, so, and they're going after him on every front, with advertisers. So he's under assault. So he, I think he's woke up. I think he's become attuned to that. I don't think he realized how strong the attack would be on him from the government, from the Biden administration. The Biden administration, they had this the Biden White House, they had this ceremony, this big celebration, day-long thing celebrating EVs, and they didn't even invite Elon and Tesla. They celebrated Ford and all the unionized companies like Ford and GM and so forth, and totally ignored Tesla, when Tesla is literally the world-leading EV maker. So there's, I mean, it's just incredible. Why aren't they celebrating him as the Thomas Edison and Henry Ford of our day? Why aren't they proud to have a resource like Elon Musk, who's literally he himself as an individual has the world's largest space program? I mean, and why are they awarding contracts to Jeff Bezos instead of Elon? Because they hate Elon. Jeff Bezos can't even reach orbit. I mean, he can't even. He can, like, the most he can do is like a little bit of, get up into space a little bit and then come down. Elon's docking with the space station. He's going to Mars. He's like, I mean, there's no comparison. And also, the reason the NASA has to use SpaceX, or has had to use SpaceX, is, and before that they were using Russia, because Russia could launch launch rockets cheaper, manned space shots, I think, for like 160 billion an astronaut or something like that. And Elon was able to do it for like 60 billion, so literally like a third of what Russia could do it. And Russia was able to do it cheaper than what NASA could do it. So, they're literally discriminating against Elon, even though he's able to provide the cheapest, best rocket travel. So it's just, so he is under all-out assault, not just by our government, but of course we're the strongest and the biggest, but also by the EU. They're trying to use speech codes to shut down X over there. I mean,
yeah, I'm really thankful for Elon, because what would we do without him?
Where would we be without him? We'd only have Bitcoin, and that might not be enough. Bitcoin might not be enough to save freedom. I think we need somebody like Elon, because you need, because he's a counter to Google, to Microsoft, to and Tesla is not just a car company, not an EV company. It's a software and robotics company, and plus he's got Starlink and he's got SpaceX, and so they're worried about him because he actually believes in freedom.
The chat was asking if you would go on Fresh and Fit and whatever podcast. I think they both were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to. You fit like a fitness type thing?
No.
What is it? Fresh and Fit?
No,
what is it?
No, they're a big podcast out of Miami. I mean, I think they do some fitness stuff.
I'm in Fort. What, they're a big podcast. So yeah, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. So yeah, I could just come by the studio or something.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good.
Yeah.
It'd be a good interview.
Yeah, can you send
Well,
me a text or something or a
yeah,
message
yeah, I'll
in
do it. I'll text them right now because
yeah,
they were requesting
have them
that.
contact me. Give them my email. That's fine.
Okay.
That'd be fine. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
this is so. But Elon is really just the Atlas Shrugged, Hank Rearden character. Because remember, if you haven't read, I'm sure you've read Atlas Shrugged, but maybe someone in your audience hasn't.
mhm.
And it's Ayn Rand book or a classic book about how this guy, Elon Musk type character, was just attacked by government because they can't stand success. They can't stand somebody who is not beholden to the government, right? So even like if you're Google, you're Microsoft, you're still beholden to the government because the government is your biggest customer. Well, Elon's not really beholden to the government, even though
Right.
government's a big customer, for SpaceX, but basically he's not beholden to the government.
Well, I wanted to say, we are gonna wrap up the show a little bit, but I wanted to say your story really touched me like a
Oh,
lot.
thank you. Yeah.
I've seen that happen to so many. I've seen it happen so many times to people I like know personally, and just interviewing dads. So I think it was really important that even though it's unfortunate, like what happened, I think it's important it got out there because it really resonated with a lot of
Yeah, it really
men.
was. It was very hurtful, and nothing good can come of it. I mean, nothing really good. You know, Maddie did, fired her video, which wasn't her first video was fine, except for those inaccuracies. But
Mhm.
basically, I think the spirit of her video is fine. But airing these things out in public is not good. But you can make lemonade out of lemons, right? So something bad happens, and maybe good things can happen as a result of that. Maybe it can help other people. Maybe this thing that I didn't realize, maybe Maddie and I had a conflict that I didn't know about. So maybe it allows us to repair some of these bridges, and build stronger bridges. So, it's I think, I generally think good things will happen. That one of my friends, he runs a big private equity fund and he's a billionaire, and he says, the thing about you, Ben, you're so optimistic. You think that things are going to turn out well. You always think things are going to
I
turn
think
out
it
well.
will. I think it will. Most
Yeah.
women figure it out eventually. It just takes
Yeah.
time.
Yep. So
Where can the people find you?
well, you can. My handle on X is Ben Hart Freedom. There's an underscore after my name, and but if you just type in Ben Hart Freedom, I think it'll easily come up over on X. That's probably the best. Yeah, that's probably the best. I'm not trying to really drive people to a website. If you want to buy my books, I have
Yeah,
Bitcoin,
get the
but I
man's
have another
book.
book too. I have another book too. It's called Win Life, and people who think I'm not involved with my children, I wrote this book called Win Life: Success Skills the Schools Aren't Teaching. I wrote this book to basically help teens, late people in their late teens, early 20s, basically navigate life successfully. It's called Win Life, and it's just basically tips on how to be successful in life. What to do and what not to do. That's called Win Life. So there's that, and there's Bitcoin. I also wrote a book, but it's not in print anymore. I think I'm going to bring it out. But when I was a student at Dartmouth, that's where I went to school.
Oh, you
I
went
wrote
to
a book.
Dartmouth? Wow.
Yeah, I went to Dartmouth and graduated from there. So my senior year at Dartmouth, I wrote a book called Poisoned Ivy, and it's basically the how the America's top colleges are waging war on freedom of thought and speech is what it was. And so basically, it was about the origins of the whole woke ideology. It was about the origins of wokeness, and it was the first book really to talk about that. And I called it the ethos. I didn't call it woke. I called it the ethos because it's not just about politics. They want to like basically control how you think and shape how you think, and it's not about critical thinking. So and now that wasn't the general tenor at Dartmouth, but it was happening in what I called victim studies departments: the women's studies, the black studies, the gender studies, the LGBT. It was gay and lesbian studies back then. Now I guess it's LGBTQ. No, I have nothing against LGBTQ people, by the way, but I just don't think that stuff should be taught to kids.
Right.
But anyways, so I wrote a book about that, and I said that these departments are small back then. They were tiny back then, maybe a few professors in them, but they could cause a big ruckus, and they were kind of just with the just by being louder, they were kind of silencing free speech, and the administration was trying to keep. Well, I was one of the founders of something called the Dartmouth Review, which was a conservative student paper. And so the administration was trying to prevent us from distributing the paper on the campus and things like that. So I was talking, so it's basically a book about how liberals were supposed to be for free speech, freedom of thought, civil liberties, but in reality, they're not, because when they're actually in charge, like they would be in a university setting, and you have these kind of radical professors that are in these victim studies departments. Suddenly they're not for freedom. They're not for free discussion. They're not for debate, and they're shouting down speakers and so forth. So
I look at it like masculine and feminine. Like liberals are either women or men that think like women, because women always try to control speech, and we resort to social violence.
Yeah, I think the women. Okay, so women, and of course we're getting in trouble for this, but it's right brain versus left brain, right? So you have the artistic brain and the feelings oriented brain. That's part of your brain, and then we have like the math brain and the logic side on the left side. And women, I think, tend to be more right brain dominant, and men perhaps more left brain dominant. And so you have the engineers and the the mathematicians that tend to be, they want to make things work, but you don't want to have just mathematicians and engineers running society. You want to have a little bit of feelings. You want to have a little bit of, you want to have that. You certainly don't want a mathematician as your mother, probably, an engineer as your, you might want to have a more nurturing type, so so I think there's a reason that men and women are different. I think we were made that way for a reason. We kind of balance each other out.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, Ben. It was a pleasure.
Sure. Love being on. And I didn't know that much about you before I came on, so I kind of looked up your stuff. So I looked. You're doing great stuff out there.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry about the demonetization. I hope they fix that.
They're reviewing us now, so please, YouTube.
Oh,
please.
God. I mean, why not be for free speech? Or like, say you could offer to like, can I delete that like one offending phrase out or something?
I know. I'll tell you what I said. It was it rhymes with Sanny, but with a T and an R.
Okay.
I can't say.
Yeah, you can't. I wouldn't even like try. Don't try.
Transformers. I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is too bad. I think YouTube would be a much better product if they allowed more free speech, and maybe they don't. Maybe they don't want to run ads. If Coca-Cola wants to run an ad, maybe they don't want to be on some of the edgier stuff. I could see that.
Yeah. No, I agree, but. Please, YouTube, please.
I hope so.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. I'm gonna see if I can get you on Fresh and Fit and whatever. I just would like to see it. I think your story is important. So,
okay, great.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna talk to the chat now. So.
All right, good. I'll sign out, or how do I do that? You can just sign me out, I guess, or I could just leave, right?
Yeah, I think you just leave. I don't.
All right.
I'm not a
tech Pearl, good luck, and you're doing great work, and keep going, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
All right.
Bye-bye. Okay, guys. This is why I really encourage. If his daughter is watching, okay. I know. You have probably thought one thing your entire life. You have probably thought your dad was the bad guy. And it's not your fault that you think like this. But generally speaking, when we go and look at facts, and I've been doing this for a long time. Generally speaking, when we go and look at facts, okay. I would just encourage you to go ask your dad for his unfiltered side of the story. I would just really encourage it, because you don't know what you don't know. And I can tell that he really loves you. I can tell he really wants to be a part of your life. Maybe, there's two sides to every story. But I would just really, really encourage you to get his, take him up on his offer to hang out in LA, I know it's a little embarrassing to have this all play out on the internet. I would probably be kind of embarrassed too. I don't think most people, you think one thing your whole life. It's not fun to have people publicly figure that out, She did another video saying she was only joking. I don't know, but I would just encourage you to get your dad's side of the story, because you really don't know until you know. Okay, well, Guys, thank you so much for watching today. Says Maddie loves her dad. I know, wasn't he a great guy? You can just tell. He's just an enthusiastic, good guy. Let me know. Oh, I'm gonna text Myron and see if he wants to have him on, because I just would love to see that. I think he'd be a good guest. Guys, make sure you like the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and I will talk to you next time.